you have to feel the feeling, be overcome by the feeling of love. And that's where my brain's like, can't we do it another way? It's hard to open my heart. It's hard. Can I just? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because the heart is the super magnet.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Jordan Rahme, the purpose coach, the healer, and the human design expert. Welcome to the show, Jordan. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. It's been a really interesting ride these last few months, and we learned so much through the ups and downs of life. And I'm really looking forward to spending some more time in nature and integrating a lot of the lessons over the last few months.
I don't know if it was only for you or if it was just the time of astrological time or something that people generally had like ups and downs recently, because it's been a crazy time, like traumas over traumas on the traumas behind traumas, I feel.
Yeah. A lot of dying to what we thought we knew, what we thought was, and we get a chance to rebuild from the ashes. And that's our choice. So we've definitely been going through it collectively, and we can either succumb to the pressure or we can recognize it's a beautiful opportunity to remake our life in a way that we want it to look like in the future, not just what has been in the past. So this is what brings me alive.
That's beautiful. Actually, as we were saying this, first question to you pops to my mind, which is usually I start with the story, backstory of a person. But actually, the first question that I would like to ask you is this vulnerability when it comes to men, because like I know that you are also coaching people and you're coaching men and you're working with men. And I feel like a lot of men struggle with vulnerability and struggle to connect to their emotions. And even yesterday, I was speaking to a guy and he has been grieving after his father for already like 2 years, and his heart has been so closed. He has suppressed all of that, and he's like, I'm not doing emotions, like it's not my thing, it's not kind of what I do. And so I know that there are ways to bring men to vulnerability. So what would you say that would be your advice to someone like that who is a man and who is just like, oh, emotions, that's not me, like I don't do that?
Yeah. Great question. First thing, you're a liar. You're a human. So emotions are you. They're a part of your human experience, and there's no way of avoiding it, short of being an absolute sociopath who doesn't experience emotions. What also comes up is having a truly safe, inviting space where those emotions are naturally able to arise. And that's a part of how I show up to the world is I hold a really strong space. Sometimes it's more playful and silly, and sometimes it's more intentional and direct and a bit intense. In order for us to show up in our emotions, we have to feel safe to express them. The container of safety, right? There's no one size fits all. There's no direct template. Ultimately, what it does come down to is there authenticity in this space already? Is the leader showing up in a genuine way? On the opposite end, is there posturing? Are people trying to convince the rest of them that they're somebody that they're not? Are they trying to act like they don't feel? Are they trying to act like their shit don't stink? Are they trying to act as if posturing and manipulating, frankly, manipulating reality and manipulating perspective in some way? If so, it invites the equal. Everything creates itself. So manipulation creates itself. Fear creates itself. Authenticity creates itself. Being in a space of radical authenticity, when we're showing up exactly as we are, we're not hiding, we're just pulling open the curtains. We're living in a glass house and we're very transparent. It paves the way for others to show up in such a way. So one of the ways that I lead is instead of acting like I'm the guru, I have all the answers, instead it's like I'm a guy who's figuring it all out perpetually. Here's what I'm currently figuring out. Because it's not solved, I'm in the process of. And that tends to invite others to show up with, well, here's what I'm in the process of. Here's what I'm struggling with. So that's what came up naturally asking that question and hearing that question is emotions naturally and organically surface when they feel safe to. And that's so much when I hear your introduction about space holders and healers. That's so much of what we do. We don't heal hands on, but we facilitate healing. And the facilitation comes in the space. Sometimes it's the physical space, having certain things that we see, certain smells, certain sounds, and I DJ and sound heal. So that's a big part of what I do. How can we soothe the nervous system to hear the voice underneath? So that's what a lot of what I do is creating the space and facilitating that space inside of which emotions can naturally arise because they feel safe to come out.
That's so spot on. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I feel like it's all about trust, really. If you can open up to this person that you're talking to, then you can trust that this person is going to hold you or hold the space while you're experiencing deep shit, let's say. And so I feel like if I had a little bit more time with this person, I could just build trust and show him, okay, you can open up. Maybe it would require a few meetings, and maybe it would, just go deeper and deeper until he would finally open up. But I feel like the first step was already to express it, because some men don't even admit to the fact that they are suppressing some stuff, right? And so that's, I think, the first step is awareness that, okay, my heart is closed. I cannot receive the hug that you're giving me, or I cannot, open up to you. So yeah, it's really, really on point that you just need to feel safe to really go deeply as possible, because this is what's going to heal you. If you go as deeply as you possibly can into your feeling, because if you're only gonna go 20-30%, that's not gonna like ultimately heal you, because you're not going through all the layers of the feeling. You need to go to the very, very end. So you need to feel extremely safe. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's really, really on point. So now let's get to the question that I usually ask as first, about your journey, because I don't think I've ever even asked you, because we've met a few times in person and online, but I've never really asked you, what was your journey? Like, how did you start your spiritual evolution? How did you become a coach and a healer? Like, what has inspired you to do it?
Yeah. Great questions. I've always been really strong at school, math and science, right? Something with a single finite answer, right? The known that the intellect can wrap itself around. It's always been a natural disposition of mine. So really good at school, led me into University of Michigan. It's a prestigious school in the U.S. Studied engineering, left straight into a corporate job, corporate management consulting. So I used my intellect. That was how I knew myself, was this really powerful cognitive computer that we have inside of our skulls. And that's how I avoided abuse and got love. I found success through my intellect. When I first started to dabble in counterculture, this music festival called Electric Forest that's held every year in Michigan was my first exposure to the other side of humanity. More of the rebels, more of the hippies, the wooks, the interesting weirdos in between the corporate life that I had. And I discovered there was a part of me in them that I didn't know was there before. It was like, man, I think these are my people more than the people that I spend most of my life around. So that was that first catalyst of like, whoa, I think you guys are my people. You kind of like smelly forest creatures. Like, that's me too. Not the one who is overly domesticated and takes 2 showers a day and things like this. So that was the catalyst, did some international traveling. And I got to a point in my corporate life where I just was miserable, right? That classic story of like, I'm working. I don't have much life. I left that job believing I needed to have the next job lined up. But a part of me knew I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. So I didn't line up a next job. And I got about a month and a half of unemployment, like no job. And I'm like, I'm not going back. There's no way I'm going back. There's no way. Like, oh my goodness, I have my life back. I have freedom of some degree. So from there, this was in 2016, I was burning through my savings too quickly, bought a one-way ticket to Mexico City, studied a little bit of Spanish on the way, into 7 months of backpacking through Latin America. And that's when I truly realized what else is out there more than my narrow perspective of what life is, all United States, all systematic, right? Systematic education, systematic healthcare. Come back, buy a motorcycle, spend 5 months largely in solitude, summer of 2017. And that's when I moved away from connecting with the world for the first time to connecting with myself for the first time, because it's just you. You're just in that meditative state for hours. For hours, you are lulled into a trance state and you can't escape the thoughts, you can't escape the feelings. So that was the main catalyst that got me started. And if we had more time, I would go deep into the details. But ultimately, that was the wedge that got driven in between the self that I knew and the patterns of behavior that I was involved in, and created this pattern interrupt where I was able to choose more of my behavior from free will, not just from historical patterning. So then it graduated into, all right, I want to get landed and integrate back into society. Who am I and what am I going to do? And I worked part time for my old company as I got my coaching business up and running. And I sort of left the umbilical cord of my corporate resource funnel, started focusing more on community building and fit for service, which is how we met in Costa Rica through this really beautiful community. And over the last 2 to 3 years, it's been very much focused on cultivating community, identifying and developing true, tangible modalities of healing. And if we have time, I'd like to get into some of that eventually of like,
Please.
what is healing? What is
Please.
a healer? What does a healer do? Okay, perfect. So last year I worked with a woman named Anahata Ananda. She lives in Sedona. She is this white witchy magical creature. I worked with her for 2.5 weeks in breath work and energy work facilitation. So I was able to, for the first time, marry the intellect of my brain and how my brain processes information, understands physics, understands electromagnetism. And I got to merge that intellectual understanding of physics and chemistry with the biological electromagnet that we are. So, removing and demystifying the term aura and chakra. It's so easy for people like me with this intellectual background to be like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, get out of here with that. Get out. And to feel cynical about anything that is energetic focused, spiritually focused, because it's not as measurable and tangible. So it's not real. If my physical senses cannot pick up on it, then it's not real. That was one of the earliest fallacies that I experienced until I had felt experiences that were like, okay, there is so much going on that I can't see or taste or hear viscerally, but something's up, something's up, something's up. And then you zoom out and realize the visible light spectrum's like this, and we can see like a little tiny finger's worth. So there's more light than our eyes can pick up on. Got it. Okay, so there's more than our physical senses can pick up on, scientifically verified. So once my intellect felt safe to explore this realm because it wasn't this cynical, silly hippies, I really started understanding the physics of healing, the physics of trauma, and the chemistry of trauma, how these experiences that we go through as a child, whether it's abandonment, whether it's abuse, all these different forms and these different layers of being harmed, how that truly gets trapped in our nervous system. It gets trapped physically in our central nervous system. It gets trapped chemically. So when we have these triggers set off a series of responses and chemicals in our body that reenact the painful experience we went through in the past. And it pulls us back into that state. It pulls us back into that space-time coordinate when we experience the trauma. So a lot of what I focus on, without going into all of the exact modalities, a lot of what I focus on is backing into the origin point of a trauma, understanding how it manifests in our everyday life as an adult, and asking those questions to get down to the root. Once we identify the root, it often is something that mom said when I was a kid, or this really embarrassing thing that went down when I was in third grade, when I was 9, and all the kids laughed at me. So much of the behavior that recreates the pain is attributed down to childhood. So once we identify what that looks like, we actually use breath and use a meditative trance like state to revert back to that childhood experience. And as that child, we get to hold his or her hand. We get to say what that version of us needed to hear at that time to prevent the trauma. We get to ultimately replant that seed. And when we come back out of that meditative state, that trance state, that memory has been reframed. And since that memory has been reframed, it doesn't have the same lingering painful residue than with the former frame. So that's what I see healing to be. And that's my primary approach to healing. Identify the root of the trauma, go back to the origin point of when it began, and reframe and reperspect that memory. Because when we come back into the present moment, that memory has been reframed. The memory is not the same. So the trauma is not the same. The trauma doesn't play out in our lives in the same way.
Yeah, and our brain is also reprogrammed completely because our brain has neuroplasticity. So our neurons are connected in completely different way. If we can go back and release the whole emotional charge and reframe the event in our mind, it's like literally the brain changes. So, and literally our DNA changes because the blueprint, the DNA blueprint is there, but which keys we're gonna play on the keyboard is up to our emotions and our responses. So if we can reprogram and go to the inner child and really re-experience this, feel everything we felt, this is where we change our biology, literally. I'm just really into this right now because I'm reading some of the Joe Dispenza's work, and I'm just like, wow, he explains it in such a beautiful detail, like how exactly step by step it happens. And I'm just even more excited about doing shadow work now, because I'm like, wow, I'm actually affecting my DNA directly when I go back to my childhood trauma. It's so freaking cool. I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah, let's stay on the Joe Dispenza train for a moment because I did his 7-day advanced in Florida in January. And then I did a
Ooh.
3 or 4 day follow up in Colorado last month. So I've done 2 Joe Dispenza intensives in person over the last 4 months. The upregulation and downregulation of our genetics, because this is the way that I experience it, is just say that our parents experienced a ton of trauma and then sperm hits the egg, it creates this human, we're birthed into the world. So we're birthed with this kind of dictionary, this baseline of code. But it doesn't end there. It's not like you're stuck with the code. You can upregulate and downregulate. You can activate and deactivate certain genetic code. So, out of the box, for instance, we seem to be imprinted with trauma or joy or whatever the up and down regulated code passed on from our parents. But we can change our genetic makeup throughout our lives. We can have the potential for activated and upregulated scarcity and fear and, oh my God, a monster's coming to get me. But we can deactivate that gene through our felt experience of life. And that's where the neuroplasticity comes into play, where we can actually change matter with energy. We can change matter. We can change our brain structure by re experiencing ourselves and re experiencing thoughts. So I love that you've been obsessive, and I want to hear more from you about what have you learned about changing your genetics through your felt experience. If you care to share, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, first of all, I feel like there's such a fine line between matter and energy, because honestly, I feel like everything is energy and matter is just what we call that we can perceive, but it's just like a different frequency. So like there is no difference between matter and energy to me, because like I don't know if I can explain it well or probably not, but like there is this scientific experiment of the Higgs boson. Do you know this experiment, like quantum physics? So like this
Yeah, the particle
particle,
accelerator.
yeah, exactly, this particle that shows us that it's just literally our perspective that this is matter and this is not. It's like everything is energy anyway. It's just the barrier that is crossed with the, let's say, maybe lower frequency of energy that we can perceive as something structured, something that is matter, but there is no difference really. So it's no wonder that we can influence matter with our energy, because it's matter is energy too. So it's just really really funny
Yeah.
that we humans are kind of like differentiating it, but I see it as like there is no difference really, if you look at it, right? It's
Yeah.
just our perspective, as you were saying before. It's just a range that we can perceive, but it doesn't mean that there
Yeah.
is not something beyond, right? But yeah, my takeaways, wow, like I don't know,
I
I've
think
been,
of it
yeah.
like when does green become blue? Like it's
Yeah.
all color, but
That's
like
so true.
when does it count? When does it count as matter? Like
That's such a good example. When does green become blue? Yeah, I mean, it's we don't really
somewhere.
know. We don't really know. It has to go through turquoise though. But then where does turquoise become something
Exactly.
else? Where does turquoise become teal? And then Oh, that's such a funny
Exactly.
example. I
Exactly.
love it. I love this example. But yeah, I feel like I've studied a lot of Bruce Lipton as well, because how I started doing my healing modality Psych K is because I met Bruce in Auckland. I was on his seminar in New Zealand, and it was just like, for me, it's just like how first of all, it's really funny how a biologist can actually have spiritual awakening through understanding the biology and how the cell works, because it's like it's literally true science to spirituality, which is quite different than a normal approach, right? Because it's really the same. And if we can understand that our emotions are the signals that are going to our cells and literally tell them what to do, I think that's something that I really want to like emphasize. Like, we are kind of like a pianist playing on the keyboard, so we are sending signals to our cells to know how to respond, whether they should produce a healthy or unhealthy cell, right? A cell that is like aligned, or a cell that is misaligned, a cell that is harmonious or that is in disharmony. So to me, it's just like so empowering. I feel like, yeah, the biggest thing that I get from this book is like empowerment. That it's, I am a creator of my own reality, period. Like, I am a creator of my health, I'm creator of my life, I'm a creator of literally every single thing in my life. And he explains it so beautifully from scientific perspective, but to me it's just like so, yeah, just empowering. So that's, I think, the biggest takeaway that so far, I think I've read maybe half of this book, You Are the Placebo, right now. But when I read it, I'm like, yeah, oh my god, I'm creating my health. Yes, I through the mental rehearsal, I can achieve anything I want. I think the concept of mental rehearsal also really cool, where he was giving examples of people like Jim Carrey or Michael Jordan, who just rehearsed in their mind what they are going to do, whether it's a shot in the basketball, whether it's a $10 million check, right, for Jim Carrey or something. And it's so cool how he can explain it scientifically, so that people can actually understand. And skeptical people, right, the smart people, let's say, they can really get it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, so emotions actually really count. Because I feel like a lot of very intellectual people, they're like, emotions, meh, it's not really that important. It's like, my intellect counts and so on. But actually, if you look at the scale of consciousness, the reason is beneath love. I mean, if you want to really up level your consciousness, you need to go to the place of love and beyond, right? And reason can only get you so far. So it's just really beautiful how science meets spirituality. I'm just really really into it.
Yeah. One of the key pieces that Dr. Joe talks about healing. So in these workshops, in these, multi-day events with 1500 people, he's not just teaching theory. He's not just lecturing. We're deep in meditation, and we actually do coherence healings. So this is where we take people who have had strokes, who have Parkinson's, who are handicapped in some way, blind, deaf, and we prime the space and prime them to receive healing and receive the vibration of love. And we prime the healers to emit the vibration of love. The key piece of these coherence healings is you have to open your heart. You have to feel the feeling, be overcome by the feeling of love. And that's where my brain's like, can't we do it another way? It's hard to open my heart. It's hard. Can I just? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because the heart is the super magnet of the body. You can go back 5,000, 8,000 years. Every culture has come to the same conclusion that the heart is the massive electromagnet of the body. Like the heart is the gateway. Listen with your heart. We've said this for so long. We're not talking so much about the organ that pumps blood. The heart is universal. And it's like, ugh, especially for men. Ugh, what? I have to feel with my heart in order. Ugh. But you do. But you do. And it's so powerful to feel that visceral feeling of this waterfall of imagining energy gushing out of your heart, gushing out of your hands and into this person who is experiencing some sort of pain or ailment that is debilitating their life, and just feeling so much love, feeling so much gratitude for life. And that's how he teaches it. In order to heal, you have to feel that love so deeply and so viscerally. You have to open your heart and let that love pour out of it. That's the only way that this works. You can't just set the intention in your mind like, I want to help this person heal. I want to help facilitate healing for this person. All right, let's go. It doesn't work like that. You can't just put your hands up with the intent. You have to supercharge it with the feeling of love. And that's my growth edge, frankly, because I can understand the theory of healing and the mechanics of healing, but to overcome my stories, my self-limiting beliefs as Jordan, the pain and the wounding and the trauma that I've experienced, to overcome that, stop being myself. One of his other books, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. You have to stop being you, stop experiencing your stories, your limiting beliefs, your thoughts, your wounds, your triggers. You have to stop being you. You have to become nothing, nowhere, and no time. And then choose in that space of nothingness, choose love. Feel and become and be overcome by this feeling of love. And that's what makes the healing possible.
That's so beautiful. That's really beautifully put. Thank you so much. And I feel like when you are becoming nothing, which is really becoming everything, love is natural state in this space because we are love. We are like everything is love. Everything is made of love. But I also want to mention with this intention, I feel like, yeah, first of all, you need to intend, but you also need to intend in a right way, because what I realize is that when I say I want something or I need something, it's kind of like I'm intending for wanting. So or needing, right? So the universe needs to bring me more wanting and more needing rather than the actual thing that I want to have, right? So with this intentionality, we also need to be able to really directly say, okay, I intend, or may this happen, or I choose for this to happen. Because even if, intention is very particular in if you want to create a particular outcome. And of course, the more emotion you feel, it's like the more you charge it up, the intention that you put. So of course you can have a thought, okay, I'm changing this, but if you don't feel anything behind it, it's like it's just a tiny speck of dust. And if you feel massive love, massive unity, massive connection, gratitude, appreciation, and so on, then it's like a poof, like a whole bomb of energy. So obviously you can heal way more and way faster in this way, I believe. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, it's so beautiful that you have been into this work at the same time that I'm just, really into it right now. But I would love to move to another topic because I really want to know your perspective on human design and all these types, because we've had a session of human design and it was amazing. I really recommend it. And I discovered something about myself, but I still feel like I don't quite grasp all these types. And I have a lot of friends close to me that are still like very much toddlers when it comes to the topic of human design. So we're just at the beginning of our journey of getting to know it. And I know that you're an expert, like I can tell for sure after our session. So I would love to know your perspective on each of the types and like what are their, let's say, characteristics, and also to talk a little bit about these strategies, because I think that I don't fully understand the strategies. And if someone would like to maybe just have a quick look on their human design, I know that it's actually better to have an expert look at your chart and explain to you because it's complicated to read it yourself. But for some people that maybe you have forgotten or maybe would like to refresh, I would love you to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, I can talk a lot bit about this. I can talk endlessly about human design.
Amazing. That's what we want.
It's one of my obsessions. It became an obsession when I felt in my body like, ooh, this feels like my experience. I'm a projector, and I'll get more into the details, but hearing what differentiates me from the other types, it was like, oh shit, this feels true. Like this really lands. And that's what opened it up. It was a felt experience of truth that my intellect was like, all right, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's explore this. So I love it. I truly love human design. One of the reasons why I love it and have gotten so far into it is how measurable and intellectually grasping it is. When I think of astrology and when I've had many astrologers kind of speak to me, and astrology is a component of human design. So, like, let's not get it twisted. I'm not crapping on astrology. But particularly when I've heard astrology, it's like, your sun's in Taurus and you love sensations and flavors and things. And I'm like, yeah, what's that mean? Like, what do I do with that? And there doesn't tend to be an action plan, a blueprint for how I move through the world based on my astrological chart. Now, I know that there are some people that are amazing at it, interpreting and laying out the blueprint, but particularly that's what human design does. It is a blueprint from which to take action on. Everybody's is unique. It's unique to you. It's based on the space-time coordinates of your birth. And behind that, it's the neutrinos, which are these tiny, tiny, tiny uncharged particles barreling through the universe. These tiny little particles of matter energy are embedded with information. And as they pass through the earth at the moment that we're born, they imprint the earth with the energetic signature of whatever star system is coming behind them. So the way that I like to think about it, if my sun is in Taurus at birth, I have a Tauran sun. Well, the neutrinos are coming from the Tauran aspect of not even the solar system, of the universe. So whatever's back there that's imprinted with this qualitative flavor of Taurus energy, these neutrinos, these Taurus neutrinos, then barrel through the sun. So now these neutrinos are like Taurus sun information, and then boom, they pass through the earth. So for me, it's a key component of understanding how this stuff works for my brain to be like, oh, okay, that's the physics of astrology. That helps me open myself up to receive the potential wisdom behind it, as opposed to like, oh, space-time coordinates, I don't understand. And it helps to understand. It helps me to understand. So that's the physics of it. It's a cross-section of neutrinos. Based on the unique makeup, the unique energetic map of activations and deactivations, you get your unique blueprint. And that's what I do in the one-on-one calls that we did together is I pull up your unique blueprint and I interpret your chart for you. Now, we won't go into that right now. We'll just keep things more general and talk about the types. The way that human design speaks is it's the out and in dimension of energy. So most of us are familiar with how life force energy, kundalini energy moves within our system, the up and down nature of our system. Human design invites the in and out dimension. Where are we influencing the environment? Where are we sending signals out and influencing our environment? And conversely, where we're drawing information in from the environment, where are we being influenced by those around us? So it's the out and inflow that really helps to understand, whether it's a romantic partnership, whether it's a community, whether it's a business team. It's helpful to understand who's dictating in which ways. Some people might be dictating the emotions while others are dictated by the emotions. And it's helpful to have awareness to know who's being influenced in what way and who is doing the influencing. With that awareness comes responsibility. And that responsibility can bring a lot more harmony into relationships and teams and whatnot. The highest aspect of human design is the types. This is the highest level. We have 4 major types. The OG types are manifestors and generators. These have been around since humans were like 5-centered, 7-centered energetic beings. The manifestor initiates. Their strategy is to initiate. I think of the manifestors as the visionaries who have the big ideas. They see what comes next in the evolution of humanity. And their strategy is to inform their surroundings. I think of them kind of like the oracles, the visionary artists, the groundbreaking music producers. They see and experience the thing and they speak it into existence. And that's the key piece of a manifester. What defines a manifester is that there is a motor channel connected to their throat. So they have a supercharged creation, speaking, the interfacing from the inner into the outer. So manifester initiates and informs others of what they see and are experiencing. The other OG type is the generator. And this is the majority of the population. About 70% of the population are generators. About 8% are manifestors, if you want to see the math of it. The generator's strategy is to respond. So if we just focus on those two OG types, the manifestors inform and initiate action, and the generators respond to that information. They respond to the initiation. They wait for things to unfold, and they either, oh, yes, that's an amazing idea, and da-da-da, and then they become inspired by how they carry out the idea, how they bring it into tangible manifestation. Or it's a, not for me, not for me. So the generator listens to their sacral. The defining characteristic of a generator is a defined sacral, which means they're pumping out life force. It's like a nuclear reactor of human life force. So these are the people with the energy, the consistent access to life force energy to drive them through the world. These are the doers and the makers and the builders. So those are the two original types. Manifestors initiate and inform. Generators respond to the information and initiation. In the late 1700s, humanity is figuring stuff out. We're discovering different planets. We're understanding that the Earth isn't the center of the universe, and neither is the sun. And we're understanding how things work. And as we understand more deeply about how the universe works, how everything is built, we complexify energetically to hold this new space of intellect and understanding. So we complexified in the late 1700s from seven-centered beings, as we see in like the Hindu chakra system, right? The seven energy centers that most of us know and understand. We complexified into nine-centered beings, and we became more collaborative species, because we didn't have a 10 million person city way back when. And now there are stories of, these old ancient civilizations that are part myth, part reality. But ultimately, we've evolved. With this evolution, in come projectors. Projectors, I see as and understand as energetic middle management. I'm a projector. I feel it like I hear the initiation and the information from the visionaries, from the manifestors, like, cool, whoa, awesome, sick, sweet, okay, cool. And then interfacing with the generators who carry out the manifestation, who do the building, do the moving, do a lot of the creating. And we're the middle people. We help connect the two. We help make things efficient. We put people in places to succeed. And so our strategy as a projector is to wait for the invitation. And the invitation comes in two parts. One is the explicit nature of an invitation. There's no question like, do they want me involved? Like, do they not? Like, does she want me to do her podcast or does she not? Like, there is an explicit invitation of like, hey, will you please be on my podcast? Will you please help me with this idea? Will you please help me ... So there's an explicit invitation of please help me with this thing. And the second aspect of the projector invitation, what are the terms and conditions? What do you want me involved in? So the difference between, I would love for you to come to my birthday party. Okay, check the first box. okay, now that you're here, can you go like put some sodas on ice and grab some plates and do this and that? And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought my presence was all that was sought after. So in that example, explicit invitation, but not the terms and conditions for a yes. So that's the projector strategy. Wait for the invitation. It's explicit. It's under the terms that we're looking for. It's the role and expectations that are a good fit for us to say yes. And then the final type is the reflector. The reflector is less than 1% of the population. And the way that I think of it statistically is Dunbar's number is this mathematical formula that expresses humans are built for a maximum community of 130 to 150. Humans are not built to be in tribes of more than 150 people. When we do, our structures start to break down. And I could go on a whole separate tangent about what that looks like. A lot of it's based on trust. If it's a community of 100 people and I were to like steal something from you or screw you over, everybody's going to find out. And my reputation is going to be hit and I could get excommunicated, which means die. So as long as we're like 100, 150, we can keep the trust and communication lines open. But when we hit something like New York City, when we got like 10 million people on top of each other, like you could steal from everybody all the time and nobody could find you because you just slip into anonymity. So that 150 number, 130 to 150, you have one reflector. You have one reflector per tribe. And this is what I experience as the giver, like the book, The Giver, the memory keeper, the one who has experienced the past and seeing the future, the one who feels deeply. The reflector strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. So like wait a month.
What?
One of my good friends and human design teachers is a reflector. And whenever I get clients who are reflectors, I often like dish them over to her. And I'm like, I actually have, a really powerful person who is a reflector. Maybe go talk with her because she knows viscerally. Wait a lunar cycle. Be extremely patient. Be extremely patient. Let yourself be informed. Let yourself be surprised by the unfolding of life. Reflectors are characterized by being completely open. Literally every center is open. So they're being dictated, they're being influenced by everything all the time, more or less. Their root is open, their sacral is open, their heart is open, their G is open, everything is open. So they're taking in information everywhere. They're very sensitive creatures. So it makes sense for them to be more patient and wait a lunar cycle, wait such a long period of time to experience the ups, the downs, and everything in between before making major decisions. The projector piece, I missed this. The projector is characterized by an open sacral. So it's not an energy type, but there's no motor channel connected to the throat because that would be a manifester. So manifestors, powered throat, communicating. Generators, powered sacral, doing. Projectors, not a powered throat and not a powered sacral. So we're these middle creatures. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Can I help out? I want to support these big visions. And then reflectors, everything is wide open. And they're taking, drawing in.
That's why it's probably easy for me to make things happen in my life because I'm a manifestor generator. So I feel like I have both. I can both be like, okay, I have a vision to do this, and then I do it, and then everything happens for me, right? Because there is the type of manifestor generator where you're kind of like in between. And it's quite cool because you can really make things happen in your life in this way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So manifesting generator is, so generators are about 70% of the population. If you split them in half, you have pure generators and manifesting generators. The way I think of it is pure generators are like straight ahead momentum, not meant to multitask in the same way, meant to move faster and harder in a more singular direction. Whereas manifesting generators are more agile. They can change direction. They can juggle more tasks more effectively than a pure generator. So manifesting generators are generators. They have the additional capacity of a motor channel connected to their throat. So the strategy of a manifesting generator is still to respond, the initial response, but you have the additional capacity to then initiate the next action. And the way that I often think about it is a generator is like, that's a great idea. What do we do next? Like more information. And a manifesting generator is like, that's an amazing idea. First, we should do this, then we should do this, then we should do this. And it's like a snowball effect. They can take something and run with it in a way that generators are more heading in a singular direction.
I've never thought about it this way, but it makes sense when you explain it in this way. Because yeah, these strategies were kind of like not something I could understand just by reading about it, really. But when you talk about it, it's kind of like, okay, this is how it works. And so really I'm really curious about these reflectors, because it's like, how can you even live being influenced by literally everything in your life? It's like, how do you even, I mean, I don't know, these are maybe the people that just go and meditate in the cave for their whole life, because they're just like, fuck this shit, it's just like too much going on earth right now, wars, pandemics, like all the people's emotions. It's like how they can even like operate. Like, this is what I don't understand fully from my experience, because I feel like I'm so intense in my energy that it's me who is influencing rather than I'm being influenced. That's why I feel maybe that's why I'm good at my job, because if I do some psychotherapeutic processes with people and guide them through their shit, through their shadows, right, I'm not really influenced by their feelings. I'm just able to hold it because I'm so intense with my space holding and my love and my compassion that it doesn't really go to me. So I'm kind of wondering, like, what's the other side of it? For the reflector, it's like, wow. It's like, how can you even live a life? And then the question is like, can reflectors even be in couples with let's say generators or manifestor generators like me? Because I feel like if I was in a relationship with a reflector, I would just be too intense maybe for this person. Like, I would just kind of like influence them too much. Maybe they wouldn't even know what they want and who they are if they were with such an intense person like me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great topic to explore, especially romantic partnerships and types, because there's no, okay, this type has to go with this type. It's more of you love who you love with awareness of how you each are built, you can flow more effectively together. So let's just use the example of you and your energetic makeup with a reflector. It's not as simple as like, you can't do it. It's more so you can do it with the recognition that the reflectors are very sensitive energetically. So it's very important for reflectors to have really strong boundaries, to be able to discern what is other that I'm drawing into my body, into my experience. What's them? And that we notice we're absorbing it. Like, whoa, that's not mine. That's not mine. Okay, can I? Oh, it's not mine. It's not mine. Let it go. And it's gone. And now it's me. I'm left. I remain. So this is where I also do couples readings, and to understand who's influencing and who's being influenced. And with awareness, we can draw boundaries and exercise discernment. I have one friend who is defined everywhere. So it's the opposite of a reflector. He's everywhere. His root, his drive, his emotions, his energy, his intuition, his self-expression, his willpower and confidence, his everything is defined. There tends to be this feeling with him for many people of, you complete me. I feel whole around you and with you. Why? Because he's filling in those energy centers. He's bringing to life those activations and those definitions. So there isn't a, this type has to be with this type or can't be with this type. It very much is, there's so many other compatibilities at play and just understanding, how are you built? How am I built? What's this energetic dance, this push pull between us? So we can make sure we stay in our own jurisdiction and not bleed too much into one another. And then we lose ourselves and our sovereignty, and we don't know who we are any
Mm.
longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I just imagine this relationship between you, your friend who is, defined in every center, and then this reflector who is open on every center. And it's like, what the hell? It's like literally this reflector becomes this other person because it's like everything is just sinking in. But I personally feel like for me, yes, I probably could make it work with the reflector, but honestly, I probably wouldn't like to, just because I just like to live intensely and be so intense and, to connect a lot and just love a lot and have a lot of emotion and a lot going on. And I feel like for some people who are mega sensitive, it might be a little bit too much, in the same way that for me, for them to take space, like a few days to not talk to me could be also too much for me, because I want to connect, I want to play, I want to do, right? So I guess it's also about discernment, like what are you happy to bring into your life, and with what kind of relationship. Because I'm talking now about the partner. Like with friends it's different, right? With friends we can connect here and there, but with the partner I feel like it's good to know, okay, how do I operate, and who am I, and how do I want my life to look like? Because some people probably are not going to just be compatible with me and with my intensity. That's okay. I just need to find someone who's going to be able to hold my intensity and the emotional roller coaster that I'm just bringing them on. And so with this awareness of who we are and how we want to operate and what our needs and desires are, I think we can create always a harmonious relationship. But we also need to be really bring a lot of discernment about, like, okay, what my boundary is here and how I want to play it out. Because I think yeah, that's the most important thing, to just know yourself on a deep level, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows? You could be an incredible gift to a romantic partner that's a reflector. Who
Yeah.
knows? It, we're students of life through our open centers because we are drawing in energy. We're drawing in and we're being influenced by. So we're students. We get to study where we're being impacted. So with reflectors, I would say that reflectors are built to understand others individually and understand humanity collectively in a way that other types may not be able to. So that's this incredible gift inside, not just the like, ooh, hypersensitive beings. I know reflectors that aren't emotionally sensitive. They're not like, yeah, they're powerful and strong and direct and sure of themselves in so many ways. So being a reflector doesn't infer that you're this like tiny sensitive creature. It's more that you are heavily dictated by your environment. You're more influenced by your environment than types that have more definition. Reflectors are, so when we even use that term, reflector, they're a reflection of their environment. Everything is open. So open centers are drawing in. So to some degree, they're reflecting back. Like if you're drawing in and then sending out, right? We receive and give. So they're reflecting so much back. So it's very, very, very important for reflectors to exercise incredible discernment about the environment that they find themselves in. It
Yeah.
needs to be conducive and positively reinforcing. All of us, frankly, like, let's be honest, every human being deserves to be in a healthy, positively reinforcing environment that reflects back the truth of who we are and these higher expressions of us, rather than holding us in contempt of these more shadowy aspects of us. Reflectors being so energetically sensitive, it's just that much more vital to exercise incredible discernment because they are a reflection of their environment. What do you want to be reflecting? And a really thing I feel called to go a bit deeper into with reflectors is this capacity to know others. If we're students of life through our open centers and they have everything open, then they are like round the clock students. They are deeply capable of understanding and knowing others because they're not so full of themselves. there's space to draw in and be influenced by others. So, as it pertains to guides, oracles, channels, coaches, healers, I believe that, I mean, everybody has a capacity. There's no, and I want to make this clear too, there's no like generators are meant to be the busy bees and projectors are meant to be the coaches, and that's it. You can't be a coach as there's none of that. In the same way that there's no this type has to be with this type romantically. There's none of that. Everybody has the capacity to be whoever they want to be. It's knowing how we operate and working with the flow of life, working with the natural blueprint. And that is ultimately why I teach human design and I do these one-on-one calls is I want to help people understand the natural flow of energy that already exists so we can work with that as opposed to splashing around, all confused, swimming upstream, going against the current of our natural disposition. It's a very exhausting way of being. So instead, what if we study like a cartographer, mapping out an area? What if instead we understand how does rain fall? How does it move down the mountain? How do the rivers flow? Where do the animals migrate? And we want to understand that in our own energetic system. What's the flow? How do things flow around here? And then we work with the flow once we understand it, as opposed to being lost and confused. The more we understand it, the more we can work with it. The more we work with it, the more aerodynamic and efficiently we can move through life with the most ease and, frankly, the most enjoyment.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that. And actually, one question came to my mind, and we might have discussed it when we were reading my chart, but it's just a random question now. Maybe it's going to help someone. I don't know why it popped up, but I found myself recently, especially because I was like really examining myself. And I remember on our conversation, we spoke about my emotional center being open, meaning that I'm influenced by other people's feelings. So could that be the reason why, for example, if someone is like, if I'm like very, very joyful and very excited for life, and then someone comes and they are down, or they are kind of like not excited about what I'm excited about, or they're just kind of like in a different vibe, is it why it's easy for me to just completely go to their level and just completely extinguish my fire and just not kind of or let's say because it's hard for me to maintain the joy and maintain the passion and maintain the high vibe if someone that I'm, especially the someone that I'm really connected to, right, like on an emotional and physical on all these levels, like if someone is like down or just is not excited or kind of like whatever doubts my idea or whatever else, it's easy for me to just like poof, completely fall rather than maintaining this high state. Could that be the reason why? Because my emotional center is open? Could that be one of the examples of how someone can influence me if my center is like undefined?
Yeah, what comes up is that it's definitely a factor. It's definitely a factor. I don't know if we could reduce all of that down to just the emotional center. So for instance, I'm flipped from you. I have a defined emotional center and an open sacral. So theoretically, I dictate the emotional flavor and frequency. So my partner has an open emotional center. So from the pure sense of emotions, I dictate and she's influenced heavily. But if I'm in a good mood and she's going through something, I can find my energy instantly dropping. So it's not just emotions. What also comes up is the quality of life force energy, too. So if it's like, there's a feeling of anxiety or worry or fear going on, I can be influenced by that, even though I have defined emotions and I do a lot of dictation from the emotional place. So I don't feel comfortable reducing all of what you shared down to just the emotional center, because I feel like it's just so much more complex than that. But I absolutely believe that that's a factor where your emotions, the color palette of feelings, and this is how I explain it's called the solar plexus in human design. It's level 2, it's your emotional headquarter. This is Like we talked about, when does green become blue? And that's like with the feelings, it is this infinite spectrum of expression of feelings and emotions. Just like there are truly an infinite number of colors because there's no defined colors. We talk about 3 primaries and 3 secondaries, but ultimately, like, there's infinite colors between blue and green. you know, so from an emotional perspective, it's similar that there is such a wide range of human emotions and feelings that can be felt. Defined emotional centers, like me, tend to be wildly volatile. We have these super high highs, super low lows, everywhere in between, and we're oscillating just like life. It's winter and dying and rebirth, and summer, it's full blown expression. And that's how emotions work, so cyclically. So, someone with open emotions, such as you, system would infer that your emotions are built to be more even keeled. Like if it's just you, it's like, I'm not too high, not too low, I'm kind of even keeled. Yet I'm sensitive to the oscillation of those around me. Whereas for me, I feel so high and I can feel so low. And it's important that I don't make impulsive decisions based on where I'm at in the moment because it changes so quickly. So if I make a commitment at the high, when I start to slide down, it's like, whoa, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Oh, because I was riding a high.
Mhm.
And similarly at the low, running away from something or saying no, it's like, wait, why did I do that? So defined emotions, it's important to be patient and let the emotions run their course, let them inform us. And the best thing to do is to zoom out and become a student noticing the experience we're undergoing. Why did I get so triggered? Why did I get so angry? How did I let my boundaries become so soft and an afterthought? Instead of getting caught up in it, instead noticing we're having a profound emotional experience and getting curious.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like it's so good to talk about it because I feel like this work, for example, of Joe Dispenza or other beautiful people that prove us that positive emotion cause positive effects in our body, make me feel not like I'm in a neutral state or like kind of a little bit high, a little bit low. I'm feeling like I'm high all the time because I'm just inducing these emotions and I'm just like aware of them. So I feel like when we know our human design, as you said, it's like a blueprint. It doesn't necessarily dictate exactly how we are living. It's just giving us awareness so that from there we can also understand more about ourselves and then go from there so that we can know how
Mm-hmm.
whether with this river we go right, we go left, how do we flow with this. So it's a beautiful thing to talk about and beautiful thing to have awareness of, and I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed talking about it, but unfortunately our time is slowly up. So I have a last question to you. Where could people find you if they really vibe with you and they maybe would like to get a reading from you of human design, or just be coached by you because they just love everything you shared, just like me?
Totally. So Instagram, it's at Jordan Rahme, and then we'll have my name spelled correctly. Lebanese descent, Rahme is how you say it. So Instagram at Jordan Rahme. My website's at jordanrahme.com. I have another business that I'm building out that'll come later, where I actually start to bring together all of this education. Like, what happens when we start teaching about the energetics of spirituality, the measurable energetics? But yeah, my human design is on my website. I do one-on-one calls, couples calls, small group, team calls. My coaching, I do one-on-one, and I'm actually launching an online program that's focused on purpose and understanding, like, what is your mission? Like, what is your purpose? What are you really here to do? What's your fully expressed, fully exalted life look like? So, a lot of really, really juicy stuff brewing in the works right now. And then other stuff I do is I've been DJing a ton, really tapping into sound healing, how we can move energy with sound, and also just like party and have fun and express. So, at Jordan Rahme on Instagram and Twitter, jordanrahme.com. No, those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Thank you so, so much for this conversation. I feel like I really could spend hours talking about human design and all these amazing things and science and
For real.
spirituality and so on. But unfortunately, I gotta go now. But thank you so, so much, brother, for sharing yourself with us and with the Soul Fam community. I'm really, really grateful.
Of course. Thank you, Karolina, for inviting me. It's fun to express and share and do this. It's really great. This is the projector invitation, explicit invitation. I want you to share what you know. And it's like, yes, this is what I live for. So I very much appreciate the invitation to come on.
Mm.